Greetings, fellow songwriters and seekers, and welcome back to Muse Measure. If you haven't done so yet, hit the guy on the Lotus pedal down below. And so you can hear these really incredible questions that I'm getting, which are really deep and profound questions and really pointing towards how spirituality and songwriting go hand in hand and how we can really learn more about ourselves and get better as songwriters in the songwriting craft so that we get better until the day we can't do it anymore. Which hopefully will not be for a long time until we can maybe say something that will heal the world in some way, or at least heal one person, or at least give somebody some cool experience. If you reach one person with your songs, it's not as glorious as being famous, but that's still a wonderful thing, and that's makes the whole endeavor worthwhile. That you did something, you did something which is nearly impossible on paper, that you express something and someone else had an experience from you expressing it. That's a really cool thing. All right, so this is Steve from Crested Butte, Colorado. I was there once. I had altitude sickness when I was there. It's so high up. Do you think songwriting is more about learning how to listen to your emotions, your instrument, or something beyond yourself than it is about learning how to write? No, it's about both. And this is something that I've seen lacking in many, many musicians, is the ability to listen, which is kind of ironic, I think, because you'd think that musicians would be great listeners. But think about when you've played with other musicians or you've jammed with them. How much is the band listening to each other and responding to each other and kind of having a conversation with each other? This is a great thing in jazz and why everyone should learn jazz or at least participate in something related to jazz. But it doesn't have to just be jazz. It could be any type of music where you're improving with other musicians, where it is a dialogue between the different musicians. Now, ideally, every song setting would be like this, every musical setting. Obviously, when you're playing a giant stadium and all the band is trying to play it exactly like the recording, then you're not doing that. But I think that's ultimately dissatisfying, and it's not all that interesting to listen to. Of course, people go to concerts because they want to hear the song done exactly like it was done on the record. But I don't like that much. That's why I love going to see jazz shows, because what's happening in the moment is one of a kind. It's never going to happen again because these musicians are responding to each other, they're listening to each other, they're getting louder or softer, their dynamics is going up or down. Based on what the other musicians are doing. Someone will say something like dee-ba-doo-dee, and then the drum goes do-do-dee-da-dee-dee-da, and they respond to it. So it's a call and response thing, which is really, really cool. And it makes music a living experience as opposed to this dead artifact that was, a recording, and now we are going to recreate that for you live exactly like the recording. I know a lot of people judge concerts based on how much fidelity they have to the original recording. And I think that's a mistake, because I think it's much cooler and really amazing when you hear musicians do this. And so the listening aspect, listening to other musicians, is really, really important. It's also important to get to your point, Steve, that you're listening to your emotions, you're listening to your instrument, and something beyond yourself. So you're not so caught up in no, this is what the song's about, this is what I want to say exactly, and I just got to get it down. Now, sometimes you might be in that mental state where you really have to vent, and that's totally fine. But you can still listen to yourself and make note of what you're doing and be aware of the good things you're doing and be aware how you could improve it. Also, listening to your instrument and listening to your mistakes that you make, because a lot of times mistakes are the best thing that happens in the music. And it takes you to a place that you would have never thought of if you were doing everything on purpose. This is another cool thing from the jazz world. When you make a mistake in a solo, you accidentally play the wrong note. One thing I do when I improvise in a jazz setting is, if I make a mistake, I will play it 3 times. So then all of a sudden, it becomes something that I am playing with, and it now becomes the thing that is the motif that I base my next idea on. So it gives me something creative. It gives me a new thing to play with. And so listening to your instrument, maybe you make a mistake, or maybe you emphasize something in a certain way, listening to your voice if there's some kind of crack or whine in your voice. Maybe that will affect what you're doing on your instrument, so that all these are at play. But if you're not listening, if you're not even paying attention to what you're doing, maybe you're thinking about something else, or your focus is so on one thing, maybe you're thinking about the song structure or the song that you're writing, or whether the song works, you're really kind of shutting off the experience. So it's good to get in kind of an open meditative state before you perform these songs, especially on your own, but also as you're songwriting, so that you can hear all these wonderful things that pop up, mistakes or cool little things that you might not be paying attention to. So, but it's also about learning how to write. So learning how to write is really expressing things in a way that other people will be able to understand what you're trying to say, or at least have some kind of sensory-based experience based on what you're doing, or they will feel something from what you're doing. So that's where the songwriting is. It's like learning how to turn words and phrases in a way that makes them really potent and have a lot of power to them. They have the ability to evoke some kind of image or sensory experience. That's in the lyric writing. Are your chord progressions and melodies serving each other as far as building up to something and releasing and doing this tension and release thing that happens in stories and songs? That's the songwriting element. And also learning the music theory aspect so that you know, oh, these are my options here. What would be the most interesting thing to do here that would be true to the emotion I'm trying to express? So that's chord choice, that's melodic contour, and ideas of going higher. Are you moving by steps, or are you moving, in leaps? This is the writing aspect. And all this plays in, but once, the writing is more of a conscious and skill-based aspect to songwriting, and then the listening aspect is much more time-based, and it's much more open and free. So a really good song will have both of those, and a really good songwriter will know how to listen and find all these little gems that are just waiting. It's like a video game. You're walking around, you're jumping around. Of course, your mission is to go get this thing, but you discover all these little gems hiding around and other little things that enrich you. And that's really, really important. So the answer is really both. You have to learn how to listen very closely, and you have to learn how to write well. So to learn to write lyrics well, probably the best thing to do is to read song lyrics, or just focus on that as you're listening to your favorite songwriters. And then the listening aspect, like I said, play with other people and really listen to what they're doing. Even better if you can get somebody who's a good listener too. All the musicians that I love to play with are great listeners, and it's very frustrating and very boring for me to play with people who do not listen. They're just kind of in their zone. They're just playing their instrument loud. You can tell that what they're playing has nothing to do with what everybody else is playing. They may be playing the same song, but they're not listening to what the bass line's doing. They're not listening to the drum and their little hits and the fills that they're doing. They're not reacting at all to that. I don't like playing with people like that. So don't be like that. Be a listener. And same with conversation. There's certain people who they're not listening to a thing you're saying. They're just waiting for their chance to have their turn. They're being polite, but they're not even processing anything you say. Maybe they get one little idea from something you said, but then their blind just come down and they're just waiting their turn to be able to spew what they have to say. Who likes to have a conversation with somebody like that? And maybe we're all guilty of that from time to time, but I think if you're a sensitive person and you think of songwriting and all this as a spiritual practice, that's not you. So let's be conscious about our listening habits, and also be diligent in our writing so that we get better, we hone our craft, but we also can be better listeners. All right. Thank you for your question. It was an excellent question, Steve. And please, anyone else who has questions or comments, please put them down below in the comment section, or you can email me at tyler@musemeasure.com. Best of luck with your songwriting, your listening, your expression, your writing, and I'll see you next time at Muse Measure.